and I'm delighted to join you all tonight. We are partnering for the second time with a newly formed organization, informal organization, called the Free Range Poets, Poetry Society. And I understand that it's the brainchild of these two women right here, Florence Blanchard and Sue Bailey. So thank you both. They approached the library, yes. They approached the library about partnering, and I said, sure. And so this is our second free range poetry night. I just wanted to say that on the 28th of April, we're also going to have an open mic night. Tonight's not so much an open mic night, but April 28th is. And if you would like to sign up, at least to be contacted about it, that's not a commitment to read, but just that you're interested in knowing more about it, there's a yellow sign-up sheet on that table. So. Without further ado, I'm going to turn the stage over to Florence Blanchard, and here she is. Thanks so much, Florence. I forgot to mention National Poetry Month, if you could mention.
Okay. As Kristen said, the Free Range Poetry Society is it's a disorganization that supports poets and poetry in the Wood River Valley. All of us, all of us poets here are writing under the shadow of the iconoclastic poet Ezra Pound, who was born in Hailey, Idaho in 1885. Pound rebelled against traditional romantic poetry of the time, and he said, make it new. That was his motto, and he created what was called modernism. We thought it might be appropriate to start off tonight's program here at the beginning of Poetry Month with a few lines from one of Pound's poems. And here to do that is local Pound expert, Ted Dyer. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you. Turning on my timer. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and welcome to our latest free range poetry reading for our local poets. Florence asked me to read an Ezra Pound poem to start things off, and I readily agreed because this group should, I believe, always pay tribute to our hometown patron saint, whatever our personal reservations, because it falls to us to keep his name and reputation alive. I had originally planned to read from Hugh Selwyn Mauberley, Pound's post-World War I farewell to England, but Florence emailed me 2 days ago to inform me that my introductory task was not to make it new, but to keep it short. Now, Pound did sometimes keep it short, as my 12-line selection will show, but keep it short doesn't really work very well as a literary rallying cry, so I will return instead to make it new, and will therefore share with you a brief snippet of a Poundian translation from a troubadour poet that I hope will do just that. The "it" in the slogan "Make It New" refers to the subject of the poem, which in this case was the critical, to him, importance of the troubadours to the literary world of England in the second decade of the 20th century, a topic Pound would go on about to anybody who would listen. Now, does anybody remember what a troubadour poet is? These are the poets of courtly romantic love. They're existed in medieval France, in the southeastern part of Europe, just north of Italy. So it blended and melted into Pound's beloved Italian Renaissance. In other words, the occasion for a poem was rarely personal emotions or impressions, but rather another poet, or a work from another poet or group of poets, or a historical figure, especially if any of these offered something badly needed by the zeitgeist at that particular moment. And the problem at that moment, Pound felt that the poetic language of his pre-World I day, which is roughly 1912, 1913, was the poetic diction, which is basically a jumble of slurry, glappy diction and fuzzy romantic abstractions. Pound declared this poetic language to be a public menace. The solution? A poetry of clarity, and objectivity that features discernible everyday language presented in a rhythm and in line links that present each word as distinct from the others. In other words, he wanted to liberate individual words from the twilight, foggy mists, and the gooey adjectives of romantic/Edwardian poetry. Also, Pound viewed the troubadours as the moderns of their day, something that could not be said for Tennyson or any of his contemporaries. And as moderns, the troubadours also made it new in the sense that they produced something brand new, which meant that the reader had a chance to experience the shock of the new. Finally, we must remember that the plot of a modern poem, according to Pound, is the mind's that mind's activity pulling something new into the field of consciousness. So what I have here is a 12-line summary. This is a translation of the troubadour poet, who there's a whole bunch of canned prescriptive things that troubadour poets do, and this is a little translation of something that happens when the troubadour poet finally has his first night with his beloved. He wakes up in the morning, he hears the lark, and he hears the morning watchman pronounce, and he flies out the window. Now, this doesn't sound terribly romantic, but it's pretty much jazzed up in the poetry. Anyway, basically that's what happens. What Pound does is he turns this into free verse. And this is really a wonderfully rhythmically springy piece of free verse. And unlike most free verse, it has all kinds of other poetic elements in it, namely assonance and all kinds of rhymes. This is really cool. So, here we go. When the nightingale to his mate sings day long and night late, my love and I keep state in bower, in flower, till the watchman on the tower cries, "Up, thou rascal, rise. I see the white light and the night flies." Is that cool or what? All right. Oh, thank you. And I made it. 4 minutes.
Okay, our first poet tonight is Sue Bailey. Sue wanted to be a poet from the time she was a young girl and was lucky enough to study with the fabulous Charles Simak at the University of New Hampshire and the equally great Stephen Dobbins at the Syracuse University. She admits to loving the pressure of a poetry slam. Sue?
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for being here. Okay. Edgar Seaver grows old. Edgar Seaver was a rich man, rich in property, land along a popular lakeshore, dozens of pastures and hayfields, wealthy with a big white house, memory of his family of 7 siblings, kept unchanged as the homestead of his grandparents, where he lived to the end. In the last years, he had one companion there. It pleased Edgar to put cash into his box spring mattress, but no woman pleased him enough or ever saw the mattress. When he was old, the young man who worked with him in the fields and ran the summer campground on the lakeshore took him into the final years, the slow years, the plenty of time in bed years, and that young man got everything his friend Edgar Seaver had ever owned. He too never found a woman he liked, and when he was more than 80 years old, a young couple talked him into making his home their home, where for 7 years he had the downstairs bedroom, their attention, their time. The young man was in real estate. Some people thought of him as patient, loving. Others figured he was just smart. Because Paul Geddes died there in that house, holding all this land, Just like Edgar Seaver, he gave it to the one who took care of him in the end. He lived, like Edgar, into his 90s when the rest of his family was gone, no wife, no kids, only 2 people who mattered, 2 people who stepped in, 2 people who were rich suddenly, happily, magically. This is Happiness Looks Away. Domestic bliss is possible, but it cannot be studied too hard or maybe even looked at for 1 second. Witness my dog on the rug a few minutes after she settles down, lowering her head, the best rug in the house, the most cushioned, and it doesn't wiggle underfoot. Surely she feels the calico cat crouched down beside her, but keeps her long nose averted, looking away to the other side of the room. She will not sweep her gaze in that direction for anything. The cat, too, is looking off the other direction in a studied way, pointing away from the face of her friend, although only inches separate their fur from touching. In this, it looks like an accident, their being together. They don't make anything of their happiness, and they will take it for as long as it lasts. This is the final chickadee. All winter, the suet has waited for a nibble, secured in a green metal cage under a little wooden roof someone sold at a craft fair. 2 purple flowers painted beneath the eaves have faded now. Yes, it was about looks. All winter it was about looks. Seeing out the kitchen window, tucked into a tall bush at the side of the house. Yet there was the invitation too. Hundreds of meals possible, and no one taking them until the last minute. Bare grass showing, only a few scattered piles of snow left, when a solitary chickadee in its black cap came to prove the suet house wasn't useless after all. The last bite before flying off somewhere, looking good, looking perfect in fact. March moves. In spring, my horse likes to leave the ground, leaping up to point a front hoof or 2 at the slanting sunshine before the back end follows with heels to the sky. Think of a horse as 4 feet planted on the ground, solid like a bronze statue. But then think of a little girl in a gymnast competition, twisting through the air before landing with hands raised, springing for the clouds. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sue. So let's see, our next reader is Susan Fierman. Susan has spent her adult life working with people in learning endeavors and hopefully moving everyone towards a more fulfilling life. She is privileged to have worked with the advocates for the last 13 years. Her work and her ongoing spiritual practice have opened her heart and from time to time allows poetry to flow out. Right, Susan?
They put the Sues together, right? It's a plan. Okay, I better do this. One road home. Suppose the stress I feel is not about you. The choices you make, the story you live, the worry I endure about your well-being. Suppose the stress is similar to climate change, racism, war, rape, and children dying. Or in the same boat as enough money for old age, bone density? Are they traveling more than I am? Shouldn't we empty out the house, preparing for decline? What if this path of life has only one direction, and love, acceptance, joy, and peace are not the end of the story? What if this frenzy of worry is just a habit of thought, running through my blood, making changes I would stop if only I knew, harangued by the perceived and real effects of the life of those I love, watching my ping-ponged reactions from a distance as they bounce down the stairs, lighten and dissolve? What if answers to what if far surpass the question? Entering the field that doesn't allow fear, it expresses into freedom and love. The pink one keeps you from screaming. Explosion of indulgent rage, fracturing. A jagged demand for attention, frazzling mind, emotion, body. Unconsciously laying waste to what was missing in the first place. Sanity laughing in the corner. No invitation to presence. Time, cognizance, radiating apology. I think about the path. Pictures painted with expectations, folding in and around themselves. Dense, familiar. Smoke in the wind, rising, dissipating, leading to the unknown. The step into finds its climb. The lift is heady. Vast collective, love, freedom, presence, being, home. Cancer, the audacity, sneaks in unannounced, lurking behind, between, under, shrouded, sinister, shocking rudely, distressing everyone. Upsetting tones paint normal patterns where overwrought exhausts organized calm. Once again we press out, stretched to the ridiculous of acceptance, emerging and rallying useful moments, beginning the care and healing with love and attention, asking for grace. Commitment, kind of. I will get there between 10 and 11, unless I have a class that goes past 5:30, or even if I work from 3:30 on. If the weather is really good, then I'll probably get there at 11, or a little after because I'll walk my dog. But if the weather is really, really cold, then I'll get there at 10, and we'll leave early because it's warmer in the afternoon. And if you need me, you should make an appointment. Ode to pain. Listening through pain, half here, half there, dancing with a constant partner. Just enough to hinder standing, sitting, walking. One tiny gravel in my hiking boot. There is more to me than wading through discomfort to doing anything, witnessing the hooks. Keep moving. The dance is constant, mind or matter. Insert head in sand. No news, no literature, no lectures. Sum it up for me. Too painful to read. Include hopeful somethings. A way out to squeaking by without any personal pain. And for God's sakes, don't bring it up again. Okay. Quote, dancing in the moonlight, playing oldies, still goodies, grieving for the dancer impulse alive in me with no company. Love and shielded grief opens the veil. Music surfaces spirit, excites freedom. Longing not finished, flashing, emerging. Oh, sweet darling, you get the best of my love. It's me I miss, not you. She-ness. I'm almost done. I know you. I did time it. Friends, recharging my spirit, swooning in their love, hearing it in the background, goosebumps in my heart, dancing with goosebumps in theirs. Flows lightheaded like a high in the one note, taking leaps of faith over leaps of faith. Growing old, merging in loving wonder, our female essences, sparking life, serving eternity, spiraling up and out. My last poem isn't here. Oh yeah, here it is. This is the only one that I read at the last one, but it was given to me by God and I wrote it down really fast, so I figure it's necessary in a poetry reading. Mother Nature. I am the pristine snow, no history written across my radiant face. I am the mountains, grace to all who behold my presence. I am the wind, my caress plays no favorites. My raging show means nothing. I am the water's healing freedom of acceptance. I am the gnarled, peeling, dying trees. No pleading lips here, only ever-present service to the earth. I am the sun, burning life's every breath in fierce love. I am the moon, luminescent, healing touch of light. The sky. I am the mother, ever-changing, infinite presence of being.
Our next poet is Les Shanahan. Les Shanahan is a retired ferryboat captain from Washington State. He's a writer of poetry and plays. Also, he is an artist of metal sculpture. Les grew up on a small island in Washington State, retired to a wheat ranch near Walla Walla, and moved to Hailey about 25 years ago. Les and Carol, his wife, have a arrangement that Les writes the poetry and Carol reads it. So Les is going to come here and join her. So you all know who wrote this wonderful poetry.
I'm not going to respond to that. I don't get paid, just so you know. A little closer? Okay. Perfect fruit. At what age would you like to die? My wife asks me. I prefer not to speculate, I say. An unsatisfactory answer, she corrects. Undeterred, one-side talk turns to methods. Drugs and an open boat on open waters. A closed garage door, perhaps. Ultimate exhaustion after farewell sex. Believing that death does not defer to silence, she commands, pick an age. When I'm ripe, but not rotten, I reply. A walk in the woods. Go on, it's all right. Pick up the scattered bones. If they're small, place them in the hollow of your hand. Shake them if you want, like dice in Vegas. Blow on them while whispering incantations in their marrow. If they're large, butt their heads together, like bone on bone, like Curly and Moe. When you're done, place them on a soft bed of moss and wish them well. Urn of orts. Take me to the stunted alpine trees where meager soil marries solid granite. Then would you please open my urn of orts and shake me over that tenuous border, that I may dust the boulders like moss and take root in the thin-skinned earth, that I may become a shard of the mountains. Musically declined. Never played a guitar in my life, much less ever held one. Then I bought one, then a second, then a third, and kind of a fourth. The instruments themselves, a new drug of choice. As to the music they and I might provide, please, please don't ask what I was thinking. Please don't burst my bubble. Duplicity. Every evening the sun sets on somebody's morning, as if it were two things at once, like a coin flipped in the air, or a napping cat stalking dream birds, like two faces of a truthful liar. A brighter idea. Wouldn't it be nice if once, just once, that a man, almost always a man, instead of thinking it a bright idea to fire on a group of school children under their desks, or stab his mother, sister, and father, wouldn't it be nice if once, just once, that he might think it a brighter idea to kill himself first instead of last? Winter storage. With ice on the water and a canoe moored in the garage, upside down, hanging by its toes. What an indignity that must be. When I toss the garbage, the mini ship gives me a sneer. A reprimand. I see trouble coming on the thawed water days. God made him do it. Our dog went nose to nose with our cat. Told him exactly what he thought of him, things he would never have said face to face. Had the big feline bad boy been awake. Let sleeping cats lie, we advised him. But no, he insisted and persisted on being a dog who would pay dearly. Lesson learned. Haiku's subtle point disembowels graceless poets, face down on the page. Solo. I climb the face of a mountain and find a beard in lotus position. I ask this beard for knowledge. Not that I normally thirst for it, but this one time I am dry. And he seems an oasis. Are we each of us alone? I ask. Of course, he says. We are each a scarecrow in a field, an ant too far from its hill. Big bore needle. Mosquitoes do not file flight plans. No departure times, nor destinations. Don't bother with ETAs, and forget about listening to lame joke pilots. These buzzy aces fuel up at every bare arm, happy as a phlebotomist with a big bore needle. That's my favorite. Far from here. When we say, I see, I hear you, yes, we're usually somewhere else, but anywhere but here. What? What was that you were saying? Oh, yes, right. Of course. Absolutely. I understand. Now, what was that again? Left behind. To the old man behind the screen door, past and present had become one, or more likely, none. Who knew what lurked deeply behind him? Interrogators honing their tools, the filth of family bringing cakes too sweet to eat, and boxed puzzles cut into riddles. While the man's distorted face presses tightly against the screen, a dry spider sprints from a wood-rot corner and drinks the lost man's tears. This is the last one. I find our family dog reclining in my chair by the fire, watching the Westminster Dog Show. She gives me that do not disturb look. What next? Am I to fetch slippers and paper, cognac and briar pipe? The worm has obviously turned. Thank you.
One of these times, we hope that Les will read his poems, although Carol reads them very, very well. So, Andrea Pierceall is a resident of Old Hailey and a lover of poetry. When not writing poems, she's enjoying the outdoors with her dog, Spot. She will be graduating in July from the Rainier Writing Workshop at Pacific Lutheran University in Tacoma with an MFA in poetry. So congratulations. And welcome, Andrea, please.
Well, I wish I had a Carol. It's a little nerve-wracking. The cowboy. The man is big and sturdy, standing in line at the airport coffee kiosk in his jeans and cowboy hat, a silver buckle on his belt the size of my fist. His hands are larger than the bills he holds. He orders a latte with 3 shots and smiles while he waits. I watch him closely, drawn to the lifelines of his face. I follow the path from the upturned corners of his mouth to the brown of his eyes. My husband died a few years ago from a disease no one understood. I hated the doctors who pretended to fix him by making him suffer. I see the cowboy later at baggage claim with his hint of a smile. He's alive, more real than my husband, tonight and every night. I want to believe in everything again as I watch the cowboy stride. From the curb to the cab, each muscle of his legs married to the next, as he swings his bag onto the back seat and slides in with ease. Then the cab merges left and left again. The taillights shine red as he grows smaller and smaller. I'm going to read the one that really makes me mad, because then I'll be a little more relaxed. The stepson serves a summons to the second wife to contest the will 8 years after his father's death. Like the admonishment on the side mirror of a car, I wish you were much smaller than you think you are. I wish you were the pesky summer fly, sought after with a swatter, finally splatted into a dot of oozy yellow. I wish you were the fetid floor of a pond in August. avoided by all living creatures and left to feed on itself. I wish you were poached by the poacher, caught by those who don't catch and release, and the first hostage shot in the bank just to make a point. I wish you could see the trove of saved emails to your father from you telling him what a lousy father he is, how you need money, a new car, a loan, a job, a life. I think when you threw yourself on his dying body, he finally gave up on you. You never give up. You are the lightning that always strikes twice, the Lazarus who keeps rising yet never dies. I want to rub your nose hard into this poem. You are an electric fence, the third rail, the skull and crossbones on the side of the bottle. Life closes as quickly as an eyelid. We're all stars hurtling towards burnout. I hope to be watching your fall, trace its trajectory, and scrape up the dust of you. I'm going to put you in your father's ring box and bury you in the backyard. Your epitaph, he was small, so small. I've been doing a series of poems about tarot cards, so this one is called 8 Strength. The orange door opens into the hospice of your heart, dust and dog hair, cradle of comfort for endings. Arterial tunnels through the night showers of Venus lead to the garden of attempts. Collage is encouraged. A montage of moments repeats in painful patterns. The past and future sewn into nasturtium and tomato. Lie down on time with a pillow of parsley. A murder of crows lives in the telephone pole. Pretend you are deaf. Squirrels steal birdseed. Before fruit is born, frost kills the bloom. The body keeps breaking. Life is a first aid kit. Follow the arrows flying overhead, all 8 soaring in synchronicity. Hold out your hand to the lion living there. Lure him to your lap and tell him how much you love him. Then grab his mane. Make the lion stare into your eyes with awe before you tilt back your head and roar. Food for thought. I don't give darkness any more agency than it already takes. When I wake up, I lick my wounds like a dog. My body lifts out of bed. I look up and hope the sun cradles your crypt. Hearts are translucent until exposed to air. So much I can't explain. Why didn't Juliet text Romeo before she drank the poison? I wish your urn was empty, the ashes baked into cupcakes. You were delicious. 6 of Cups. Cancel your appointments with regret and sadness. Book a corner booth with Resi. Break bread with rejuvenation and drink desire on the rocks. Pass the salt, pass the punctuation. Sip a steady stream of optimism. Embrace your inner child in the molten middle of a chocolate lava cake. Wake up. Have an espresso. Unzip your body bag of beauty. Wear sequins and take the zip line everywhere. Your soul is a bud waiting to bloom into a catalog of pleasure, page after page of petals. Ask the waiter for his pen and write pleasure's phone number on your palm. Call every night and leave a message. Thank you. Recite the Lord's Prayer to the tune of a polka played on an accordion's mother-of-pearl keyboard. Scan the sky with a flickering flashlight and braid the thin red thread attaching the living to the dead. Comfort resides in ritual. Take a bubble bath in champagne and always yield to your right. Thumbtack the black and white photo of a heartbreak to the wall and dare to throw darts. Forget you cried on the airplane, called and hung up, didn't answer the doorbell. It's okay if you visited the grave too many times or wish someone dead. Some days only the Dalai Lama corners compassion. Forgetting is a luxury. I have to take a breath. Forgetting is a luxury I can't afford. I only write about you, death, decay, ashes. I want to be like other poets, fired up by fury, fear, or what's forgotten. I keep sifting the softness of your ashes through my poems. Gray is my favorite color. My pronouns, she, her, widow. Thanks.
Chit Ananda. Her poetry is inspired by direct experience, captured in moments between perception when the mind falls quiet. She will tell you she catches poetry on the winds of the universe. Some of her work can be found in the journals Mountain Path, Tiferet Journal, Amethyst Review, and Soul Lit, and she has published a full-length poetry book called When Silence Speaks, Messages from the Heart. Chip?
I love seeing so many familiar faces on round 2. It's wonderful. So I love also how the threads weave with poets in general, and there's a lot of themes that have been consistent tonight. This is a poem written off a prompt, and the prompt was called Why Do the Pines Sigh? Or was offered as that, written by Han Shan. His poem was called I Climbed the Mountain, Cold Mountain. So all of that came together. Louder, okay. Secret of the pines. They know the secret. Each evergreen needle pierces the sky, consuming light. What else matters? This one's called All the Things I Do Not Share. There is a lot I don't share. How the mist parts quite easily to reveal the sun. How canyons have carved themselves in water's lusty flow and hunger to merge. How cobra molts, shedding the skin of her past each time to leave rich compost for her brethren. How the flight of the bald eagle began the day being grounded, separated from sky, hurt too much. How fire warms more than my body, ignites solid ways into vapor where it morphs with the wind as nourishment for the heavens, enriching some unseen force with my holy burning. I do not share these things. Even though the world is burning, It does not seem ready yet to rise from the ashes, but it will. I want to bend. I want to bend, navigate corners with grace, a fluid transition to turn each angle, each moment, each transgression as if a beam of light. I want to split right down the seam, open unflinchingly, to receive all that comes my way through the crack of time, as if a light beam. I want to favor fluidity, flowing onward unfazed by stone or mud or craze, to roar when needed, hush when called to, silence when drawn to stillness, like a river of light beams. Is it enough to want to bend, to split, to flow, lighting the way in silent glory? Adrift in Mercury. This morning, my friend said she doesn't believe there's an intelligence, a governing force that drives life's chaotic magic. My heart sank. I understand, truly, how this has to be so when life feels like a canoe on the open ocean, as hurricane swells rise and crest so frequently that calm isn't even a word anymore. This is a place few travel, and those who do often travel alone. I had a canoe once, red and sleek. Her name was Adrift. She sang her own special tune as her draft lifted and clashed into the surface of her mercurial ocean. We never traveled where I wanted to go. My paddle was only a suggestion. She found her path and made for the long shore, far, far beyond the horizon, launched us into the ebony night sky on the winged shoes of Mercury, carrying a lyre from a turtle friend who asked to be made into song one day. I don't know what to believe. I know whatever we believe is usually incomplete. Instead, what if? How would it be? What would it feel like if we didn't try to wrap our minds around infinity and we just accepted it as so? Change of pace here. Arugula, aka salad. One world. One world. What more could we ask for? With one world, one sacred world, we have the rhythms of light and dark. We have sprouting nourishment. We have creatures to love, animal, vegetable, mineral. Please tell me you love your arugula, the way its sharp bitterness pierces through conversation and asks you to be present with it. Maybe this is what my child needs when he exposes the bitterness that has taken residence in his mind. Presence. Arugula has taught me so much. To balance bitter, you include sweet, a touch of honey, Dijon to cap the greens with their playmates of rolling garbanzo beans. I remember rolling down the greens, rising with the scent of summer grass streaking across my olfactory landscape. Arugula always invites garbanzos and beets. Yellow, soft-boiled beets in cubes that sit on the textured leaves, a practical contrast, a sweet invitation, a gesture of welcoming. So different they all are, but arugula welcomes them, knows she needs them in her one salad world, because without them, she becomes a wilted, bitter leftover. I didn't realize this, but I have 2 with my son in them tonight. This is my last one. Perseids with my son. The night sky rains glitter over our craned heads. Somewhere, new materials are being born, maybe new elements of life. My eyes are restless to watch these glowing gifts give of themselves as they burn into vapor, dust, emptiness, returning into the cosmos from which they are birthed. Marveling, I wonder how long ago the light I witness erupted from its nuclear, singular source, and whether that birthplace still blazes so many millions of light years away. Am I witnessing a ghost? And what of that first glow? Does it still shine in the spiraling of carbon and hydrogen in our helical DNA? When you abruptly announce with glee, "Oh, there, amazing, that one was so long, Mom, so bright." I feel the answers rain like glitter over our craned heads as a gift from eternity. Thank you.
Isn't this a wonderful way to kick off National Poetry Month? I mean, golly, this is just wonderful. It is my pleasure to introduce Florence Blanchard. Florence has been writing poetry on and off since high school. For the past 35 years, she has participated in the Rocky Mountain Writers Festival in Pocatello, which if you haven't been there, it's been obviously going on for 35 years. It's multiple evenings, and there's some great poets and writers who read there. It's an annual event that brings together the community of Southern Idaho poets and writers to share their work. Florence's poetry often reflects the ironies of life as seen from her small corner of the universe. Please welcome Florence Blanchard.
I have 3 poems for you. The first 2 really are from a tiny, tiny corner of my universe, which is where I spend a lot of time, which is down in Lower Broadford Road at my home. First in time. That fall, when the Big Wood River ran dry south of the 45 Headgate, Trout Unlimited members descended in hip waders to salvage stranded fish in the slow, dying river flow. Trucked in buckets of water, the survivors were released upstream, where they could die next summer on a green drake fly at the end of an Orvis fishing pole. Great blue herons stalked the stagnant pools. Osprey hovered over, vying for takeout dinners. In the sunlight, a silver patina of fish skins papered the river bottom. Caddisflies, water bugs, mayflies, water beetles, all gone. First in time, first in right, it's the law of the West. Weren't the fish first in time, I ask? Not the farmers growing bales of thirsty alfalfa, diverting the water to ditches, leaving the fish to figure it out. The river dried up to feed cattle. What message this squirrel? The tattered Tibetan prayer flags, suspended from cabin to apple tree, fluttered in the wind. Faded now by sun, rain, and snow, the cryptic characters, nothing more than ragged lines and dashes. We never knew what they actually said, though I'd read that the mantras and prayers blown by the wind promote peace, spread goodwill and compassion. Would I dishonor someone's gods by replacing them or by leaving them in this bedraggled state? Last fall, a red squirrel teetered across the fragile span of flags, shredding them as he tottered along. We ask ourselves, what message this squirrel? Seeking enlightenment in a nest of Sanskrit? Winter came. The flags still flutter in the wind. Exotic weathermen, dangling by threads, a mantra reminding us that decay is inherent in all component things. Now, this third poem is part of 3 poems that I've written from my trips over through eastern Idaho to Pocatello. I mean, it's 3 hours of driving through the desert, and it's open space, it opens the wild mind. So I read the first one last time. This one is called TripAdvisor Visits Atomic City. For a dystopian side trip while passing through Idaho, Atomic City fits all our criteria for a self-guided tour of America's industrial legacy. 1 mile off Highway 26, no gas, no services, you can't miss it. McGee's, an abandoned bar with broken windows, sits at the corner amid tumbleweeds and trash, slowly collapsing into the Snake River Plain. Greetings from the locals. You loot, we shoot, sprayed across the front. There's not much to see in this ramshackle town. Weather-beaten trailers, broken down houses, RVs with names like Hideout and Jazz, stripped down cars up on jacks, a cluster of scraggly trees, a neon bar sign that twinkles in the dusk. Once it was home to a couple hundred people with security clearance, splitting atoms to power submarines, dumping plutonium into the Snake River aquifer, secretly experimenting with molecular catastrophe. On January 3rd, 1961, a nuclear reactor the size of a small grain silo exploded in the desert. A worker pulled a rod too far. Some say it was over a woman. 3 employees obliterated, so radioactive that the Atomic Energy Commission buried them in lead coffins sealed in concrete. The population dropped to 25 or 41, depending on the source. But you no longer have to wear a hazmat suit. A 3-person council runs the town. Crime is immaterial. Although a recent feud over a city boundary got so heated, the mayor ordered a 2nd deputy from Bingham County to keep the peace. For lodging, we recommend the quirky Lost River Motel in Arco, 30 miles west. All rooms in primary colors, garden gnomes outside, 1 wall plug per room. For dining, Pickles Place, home of the Atomic Burger, open 7 days a week. And now, last but not least, and backed by popular demand, John Fox was born and raised in the Wood River Valley. He's a bike mechanic by trade and a poet by disposition. Welcome, John.
It's been a while since I've eaten, and my stomach was growling so loud I hope it doesn't get picked up by the mic. And now I'm obsessing about arugula, which I happen to love. This first one's called Atlas. Atlas has the world on his shoulders. He can't just shrug it all off and walk. At least he won't. But I don't know what that proves, except Atlas is Atlas, on a mission and all that. He ought to know, human and half again, still not whole. I forget, was it the entire globe or just the sky, an ambiguous guy, Atlas, walks the street, so heavy on his feet. Like he's holding the earth upside down, he feels the ground under the concrete. This is called Found in the Hills. It's more or less about Quigley, which is one of my favorite places. I happen to live right at the mouth of Quigley. I've explored there all my life. Don't need to see much else. I am not an alien presence here. I have wandered this way many times, through the sage on every south, east, west side, pine where the sun shines least, higher where the cold air wraps the rippled hills, stones lichen covered, and dirt roads, and fence posts, barbed wire, and no trespass hunt fish, foxes, coyotes, and birds that startle like defibrillators, whirring in tight formation, like one thought escaping into safe distance, one thought, fly, one feeling, trepidation, one regret, back there, left that, warm shelter, left that hay bale sanctuary. Maybe it will go away, they hope to each other. But I am no alien presence here. I have traveled this road many times. I have tasted its dirt. I have felt it ground into my skin. I have been torn by it, and it has lingered with me, scar tissue. I have let my sweat fall, drop by drop, wetting its surface. I have been shaken. I have been blown. I have been flown on. I have smiled delirious and frowned and cursed and pressed and exhausted myself. Every mile, every curve, every bend below rock faces and washboard low spot roller coaster, every marshy oasis where the cattails grow, blessed by fertile moisture. I have climbed, and I have climbed, and I have climbed, all of you mothers of hills, massive brothers of hills. I have climbed above the foothills to the head and shoulders of hills. I have been alone there, just to whisper in the ear of mountain, to feel the wind blast of its breath chill me so exquisite and familiar. Glowing in pure, unimpeded radiation, sun eternal. I have squatted on the rocks, embraced their sharp disaffection, and longed to stay there, reluctant to admit I can't live at this altitude, here with hawk and deer. I am dependent on that town, down on the ground, where they keep me sound. That's my tribe, those houses. Even though I run in panic to the hills at the electric touch of your open arms. I come back to you. You have my words. But I left some of my body and my spirit in the hills, spilled with my sweat and smeared with my blood on those rocks, that dirt, that barbed wire, snagged on the sage and wild chokecherry brambles. I want my spirit to stay in the hills when I die. I want it to fly there like the quail, heart racing. I want it to find safe haven in a hay bale heaven, in the dens and burrows of the badgers and skunks and rabbits. I want to run with fox to the edge of the town and remember the warm light and the open arms from a safe distance. I am not an alien presence here. I have traveled this road many times. This one's called Mechanic. I could give you all kinds of reasons why my head doesn't always work right, why I fret and sometimes fumble, logic falters, thoughts stumble. I could give you all manner of justification for my labored deliberation, show you how confusion has taken its pen to these blueprints, how it builds with bad design and moon metal that won't melt and won't oxidize, won't cut or bend, doesn't mend. A convoluted tangle of strange curves and sharp angles, jagged edges unforgiving. I could explain why I'm bogged down in this muddle, why I can't pedal through all of that, tires flat and gears grinding. These cables are corroded, grease black, half gone, and so much friction stops me, I have to falter, put a foot down. If you would only let me get to know this device, some time to find it familiar, give me just a few thousand cycles of repetition to master the machinery, I'll weld that split in mind and spirit, with vice grips and solvent fix it, a full soul overhaul. And when I've put myself back together again, when I can feel the years stain every finger, when my bones are part steel and my skin carbon fiber, when I'm threaded in and screwed down tight, cable new and polish bright, my gears will shift clean and crisp, and my wheels roll, ball bearing smooth in pristine white lithium, and I'll spin easy, riding like a dream, shining like a new dime.
Wow. Okay, so let's see. I do want to thank John and Chit. They just got back from trips yesterday and managed to rouse themselves to come to read tonight. So thank you very much for doing it. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yes, and thanks, Kristen, for supporting this program. The great Southern writer William Faulkner said that writing poetry is the hardest form of writing. If you try to write poetry and fail, he said, then you try writing short stories, and if you fail at that, then you write a novel. So I just want to know that, let you know that all the poets here have been in the salt mines. No, it's really hard to take a whole bunch of a lot of thoughts and condense it down in just a few words that are accessible to other people. So I thank you all for all the work you've done. I did want to call your attention to something called the Limberlost Review. If you like reading poetry, short stories, memoirs, and essays from writers in the Northwest, the Limberlost Review is published annually by Limberlost Press in Idaho City. It features well-known writers like Sherman Alexie and many other writers that are virtually unknown. Ted has an essay on Hugh Kenner, the modernist pound scholar, in this issue. Anyway, it comes out annually. That's limberlostpress.com. That's it. Thank you all for coming.